Welcome, everyone. Ready to dive into something uh, pretty wild.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all ears.
Okay, so we're talking Tartaria.
Tartaria. All right.
Supposedly a lost civilization, crazy advanced technology, all that jazz.
And we're basing this on.
This single document, actually, called Tartaria the Hidden Empire.pdf.
Interesting. Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
Definitely going to need some open minds for this one.
Well, what's got me intrigued right off the bat is how this document just kind of throws history, science, even religion all into a blender. Creates a completely different view of the past.
Right. Okay, so first things first. What is Tartaria? Most people have probably never even heard of it.
Well, according to this document, we're not talking about some tiny forgotten village, okay? This was a massive empire.
How massive?
They're claiming it spanned the entire northern hemisphere, even bigger than the Mongol Empire, and way older.
Wow, that's a huge claim. If it was that big, where's the evidence?
Well, that's their argument. Tartaria predates, like, all the history we know. Basically, they're saying our timelines are way off, incomplete, maybe even deliberately altered.
A cover-up. Okay, this is getting interesting, but let's talk about the people themselves.
Yeah.
The Tartarians. The document calls them giants. And get this, they didn't eat food.
Yeah, that caught my eye too, the whole Breatharian thing. They lived off energy from the ether.
The ether? Okay, hold on. Is that even a real thing? What is this ether?
Well, it's been a topic of debate for centuries. In ancient traditions, it's like this fifth element, like the air we breathe, but cosmic, this energy that flows through the entire universe.
Okay, I'm kind of following. But how does that mean you don't need to eat?
Well, here's where it gets really weird. They use this ether concept to explain why Tartarian buildings supposedly didn't have toilets.
No toilets. What? So these giant people just didn't produce waste.
That's what the document says. They were masters of architecture and technology, but apparently plumbing wasn't their thing.
Okay, so no toilets, no eating. What do these Tartarians do all day?
Well, they say all the grand buildings we see today, city halls, banks, even some churches, that was all Tartarian work.
Some of those old buildings are incredible.
Yeah.
You got to wonder how they built them back then.
And this document goes deep into the details. Those fireplaces, for example, they weren't just for show.
Fireplaces. Okay, what about them?
They claim these fireplaces, with all their fancy metalwork, were connected to the building's structure in a way that could manipulate the ether.
So like some kind of ancient air conditioning system.
Yeah.
Powered by the ether.
Pretty much. Drawing in cool air in the summer, radiating warmth in the winter, all thanks to the ether.
That's pretty wild. But what proof do they actually have for all of this?
That's the thing. The document is very heavy on interpretation, connecting the dots in ways that, well, mainstream historians might not exactly agree with.
So we're taking a leap of faith here.
You could say that. But it's definitely a fascinating leap, and it gets even more interesting when they bring religion into the mix.
Oh, right. What kind of religious connections are we talking about?
Well, their whole Tartaria timeline throws a wrench into the traditional biblical narrative, especially things like Noah's flood. They even suggest biblical prophecies might have already happened.
Whoa, hold on. Are they saying history is completely wrong?
It's more like they're presenting an alternate interpretation, a different way of looking at things. It definitely makes you think.
Yeah, no kidding. I can see why this document is so intriguing. It's like it wants us to question everything.
Exactly. This deep dive isn't about believing everything we read. It's about using these ideas to spark critical thinking, to dig deeper.
Makes sense. Okay, so Tartaria. Giant empire, maybe predates all known history, potentially had some seriously mind-blowing technology. But we haven't even touched on this mud flood thing yet. What happened there?
According to the document, it was a devastating event. Wiped out the Tartarian Empire, buried everything under layers of mud.
Ah, so that explains why we haven't found more evidence.
Right, but the document takes it a step further. They say the mud wasn't actually from a flood.
Wait, what? If it wasn't a flood, where did all that mud come from?
They claim it's the dustified remains of the Tartarian people.
The mud is made of people. How is that even possible?
That's where the document dives into some pretty speculative territory. They're talking about an advanced weapon capable of disintegrating matter on a massive scale.
Like some ancient superweapon. Is there any science behind that?
Well, scientifically speaking, the idea of molecular disintegration exists, but a weapon that powerful, that's purely speculation.
So, more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Typical, right? But this whole Tartaria thing is just so fascinating, like a hidden world right there in front of us.
Exactly. That's what makes this deep dive so compelling. It challenges us to think differently, to question what we think we know, and to embrace the mystery of the unknown. What stands out to you about all of this?
Honestly, the scale of it all blows my mind. A global empire and technology beyond anything we can imagine. It's both incredible and a little bit terrifying. What about you?
I'm fascinated by how they blend history with these more esoteric ideas. The ether, reincarnation, all that. It's almost like creating a new mythology for the modern world. And speaking of reincarnation, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about that. Let's see what they have to say about the afterlife.
This whole reincarnation thing, this is really where the aether idea gets deep. Like, it's not just energy, it's the fabric of reality,
Yeah.
where souls hang out,
Right.
between lives.
So it's like our souls are swimming around in this cosmic ocean.
Kinda, yeah. And they're saying reincarnation isn't random. It's all tied to these astrological ages, age of Pisces, age of Aquarius. Each age has a different vibe spiritually.
So, like, history repeats itself. Civilizations rising and falling on a schedule.
That's one way to look at it. Each age has its own energy, sets the stage for certain experiences, lessons to be learned. Some souls, they might even repeat the same life over and over.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying we could be living the same life multiple times? Like a cosmic Groundhog Day?
It's a trippy thought, right? Challenges how we see time. But think about it. Haven't you ever felt like you're stuck in a loop? Making the same mistakes?
Ugh, yeah, way too often. So how do we break out of the loop? What does the document say?
It's all about conscious effort, raising your vibration, aligning with the ether, they say, getting more spiritual.
So we're not just puppets of fate. We have some control.
That's the idea. It's not about predicting the future. It's about understanding the past to make better choices now.
Okay, that's pretty deep. Reincarnation, astrological ages, the ether connecting it all. This is getting complex. Maybe we should shift gears to talk about something a little more concrete.
Yeah, sure. How about some Tartarian tech? That always gets people going.
Okay, yeah, that's right. They supposedly had technology that was like way beyond anything we have today. What did they say about that?
Free energy, healing techniques that sound like magic. They even mentioned teleportation.
Teleportation. Come on, seriously. Like Star Trek stuff.
You're gonna love this. Remember those crazy fireplaces we were talking about? They claim those were part of it?
The fireplace.
Yeah, they call them etheric electrical vacuums. Step into one and poof, you're somewhere else.
Okay, that's just nuts. But even if we forget about teleporting, the idea that they could control the temperature of a whole building with a fireplace is pretty impressive.
Right. And they say buildings were designed to harness the ether. Those churches, for instance, they weren't really churches.
What were they then?
Etheric power stations. The steeples were like giant antennas pulling energy down from the sky.
So like wireless electricity on a massive scale. Sounds like something Tesla would have been into.
Exactly. They even say the streetlights were powered by ether. No wires needed.
Wow. It's all very sci-fi, isn't it? But is there any actual proof of any of this?
That's the tricky part. The document is more about interpretation. They don't exactly provide blueprints or anything.
So it's more about speculation and connecting the dots, but you have to admit it's pretty fascinating speculation.
Oh, absolutely. Makes you wonder what could have been right. What if they were really onto something?
Okay, so we've got giant people, free energy, maybe teleportation. What else do they have up their sleeves, technologically speaking?
Healing with the ether, for one. They claim they understood the human body in a way we don't, how it connects to this energy field, healing illnesses, even extending lifespan.
So they cracked the code on longevity. It's like a wellness guru's dream come true.
Right. But it makes you wonder, if they were so advanced, why didn't they survive?
Yeah, that's the mud-flood paradox, right?
Yeah.
This advanced civilization wiped out, seemingly overnight, and they claim the mud itself was made of the Tartarian people. It's kind of a dark thought. Like, they just vanished, leaving only a few whispers behind.
Makes you think about how fragile even the most advanced civilizations can be, right? What does that say about us, about our future?
Heavy stuff. It's like a warning sign hidden within this whole mystery. But if they were wiped out so completely, how do we even know about them? Where does this document come from?
That's one of the biggest questions. It's a mystery. The document doesn't say who wrote it or where it came from, just a mix of research, stories, interpretations.
It's like we have a few puzzle pieces, but most of the picture is still missing.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us coming back to this Tartaria thing, right? Trying to figure it all out. But we haven't talked about the spiritual side of all this yet. That's a whole other layer to this story.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah.
How did they view spirituality? So we've talked about their architecture, their technology, the ether, reincarnation.
Hmm.
But where does spirituality fit in with all of this?
Well, they're not just saying Tartaria was advanced technologically, right? They're saying these people had a deeper understanding, a spiritual connection to this ether. It was a part of everything they did.
So it's not just about cool gadgets. They had like a whole philosophy built around this ether.
Exactly. It's like they saw it as this source of all life, the thing that connects everything in the universe.
Almost like how we see the internet today.
Yeah.
This massive network that links us all together.
It's a good analogy. We use the internet to communicate, share information. They use their connection to the ether to understand the world, their place in it.
So do they have like spiritual practices, temples, priests, that sort of thing?
The document doesn't really get into specifics, but the
Yeah.
idea is their whole way of life was about respecting the ether. Their buildings, their technology, even how their society was structured, it was all designed to be in harmony with this energy.
It's like they were always meditating, always tuned into this higher power.
Yeah, kind of. They paint this picture of a society living in balance,
Yeah.
connected to nature, the cosmos, something we can only dream of today.
Sounds pretty idyllic. But then how could they be wiped out if they were so spiritually advanced?
That's the thing. The document doesn't really have a good answer for that. It's like, how can a society that's reached such heights spiritually also be so vulnerable?
Maybe it's like a reminder. Even the most advanced civilizations, they're still part of these historical cycles, these
Mm.
forces of destruction, renewal. Nobody's immune to that.
Maybe. Or maybe there's a lesson about balance. You can't focus on just one thing, right? Technology, spirituality. You got to have both.
Right. True progress needs a holistic approach. You gotta find that middle ground.
And that might be the biggest takeaway from this whole Tartaria thing. Whether we believe the historical stuff or not, it's a vision of a society that wanted harmony, balance. And that makes us look in the mirror a bit, right? What about our society?
Yeah, it's a reminder that history isn't just facts and dates. It's about stories, myths, different perspectives. Sometimes those different perspectives, even the crazy ones, can help us learn something new.
So here we are, end of our deep dive into Tartaria. What do we think? Lost civilization, cautionary tale, or just a really wild thought experiment? It's up to you to decide.
It's been amazing exploring all this with you. Who knows, maybe somewhere, under all the dust and forgotten history, the truth about Tartaria is waiting.
Until then, stay curious, keep asking questions. Don't just accept the stories you're told about the past. Keep learning.
Well said. And on that note, we wrapped up this deep dive into Tartaria. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.